anything 2024 related? Obviously the most of the blue chip guys have already put pen to paper, and now that you're done with this early signing window, I'm sure there's a part of you that doesn't want to talk about the early signing window. But any names that maybe Texas fans should be paying attention to over the next, I don't know, month and change before we get to NSD 2?
Yeah, I mean, there's really only three names. There's really only three. I'm like, am I missing anyone? Off the top of my head, there's only three names that I can think of that at least we're watching in 2024. One of them is Dominic McKinley. He's a five-star defensive lineman from Lafayette, committed to A&M. At this point in time, at least me and the people I work with, don't think there's any way he's ending up signing with A&M. He is an official to Tennessee and one to LSU. I cannot remember the other one he had scheduled. But he's one to Tennessee, one to LSU. He took his official to Texas over the summer, so he can't use his official there. LSU is really interesting because they're the big time in-state school for the big time in-state Louisiana prospect out of Lafayette. So over the summer, I wrote about this like kind of every time I wrote about McKinley, but over the summer is really weird how the McKinleys just wanted nothing to do with LSU, if I'm being completely honest. It was a revolving door of defensive line coaches for about 6 to 8 months there in Baton Rouge. Kind of the way just the LSU staff was going about recruiting Dominic and his family, it kind of rubbed the McKinleys the wrong way. So I haven't spoken directly to Dominic or his mother. That's more of Hank's recruitment, if I'm being honest. But, what I do know from Hank and them, and seeing that an LSU official visit has been scheduled, I assume LSU has mended that part of the relationship, or at least appears they mended it. Tennessee is interesting. They were not in it at all over the summer, it felt like. That's nothing a late push can't do. I don't think Syracuse, with Elijah Robinson, even though he was a big part of A&M, if not the main part of A&M, getting Dominic McKinley in the first place, I don't see Dominic McKinley going to Syracuse or that far from home, because over the summer he liked Ohio State a lot. They did a great job on his official visit, but, before they left Ohio, his mom and him already crossed him off the list because they were just too far from home.
Anything on Oklahoma for them?
Yeah, so Oklahoma was really in it for him as well over the summer. Like it over the summer, it was clear it was going to be A&M, LSU, or Texas. I mean A&M, Texas, or OU. My bad, not LSU. And Oklahoma's somewhere in there, kind of just like how Texas is somewhere in there. Dom doesn't talk at all. He doesn't do interviews unless you get him in person. And then his mother is apparently very spotty with responses. Again, I'm not the guy on that recruitment. That's all Hank. So it's kind of hard to figure out who's truly involved and to get a good read. But, I'd say LSU, Tennessee, Texas, and OU. Those are the four schools I'm watching.
Okay. Yeah, I have a buddy who went to Oklahoma who's like, oh, yeah, if we get McKinley, that'd put the icing on the cake of this class. And I'm like, shit, I didn't realize McKinley was even an option for y'all. But I guess there's still an outside shot that he is. Yeah,
so a lot of recruits say this, but I think it's a little different with McKinley's situation. But the education and degree part of it, and just academics, it's a big part of the recruitment. His mom is a school teacher, so that's why I said, I feel like they actually kind of mean it whenever they say education is important to them.
Yeah.
And to be completely honest with you, I forgot what he wants to major in. I knew it over the summer because there was a topic of a conversation on our board. But yeah, academics are a big part of that. The other two names for 2024, one of them is Terry Bussey, 5-star athlete at Timpson, deep East Texas. Also actually committed to the Aggies as well. After his state championship game, he won the MVP of the 2AD1 state championship game, which would have been 2 weeks ago from today.
There you go.
He spoke with the media after and said he's going to sign in February and that he would like to take visits to A&M, USC, Alabama, and LSU. before he signs in February. And while he is committed to A&M, he wants to take those visits. He wants to get back to A&M so he can, get to meet the coaches better. It is a new staff. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe they finalized the staff completely either. Sorry, you just got a text.
You're good.
Engineering, perfect. Someone just came through clutch with McKinley's major. I'm trusting you on that. I don't know that 1,000%, but let's say engineering.
There you go.
Dominic McKinley, 5-star engineer.
Yeah, smart kid if you're majoring in engineering as a 5-star player. That's not like sports management or social work or some of the other, ridiculous majors that these kids who just want to play football sign up for. Like if you're an engineer at Texas or any of those schools, you're putting in work right there. So
yeah, no, most of the time when we ask the what's your major question, we get hit with like kinesiology or sports management or whatever. Yep. It was funny. I'm not going to say his name, but a member of Baylor's 2023 recruiting class, I asked him like a week before signing day, like, hey, what are you majoring in? And he was like, oh, I'm doing that stretching shit. I was like, what? He's like, I'm doing that stretching shit. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, like the stretching and shit. And I was like, what? Kinesiology? He's like, yeah, the K shit. I don't know how to say it or spell it. And I was like,
oh my God.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Dude, and I was like, so, what are you excited about, moving in a few weeks to Baylor?
God, the K shit, whatever that is.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Dude, that is hilarious. Is this kid have a chance of playing on Sundays, or is it like, dude,
he actually does. He was one of the better kids they signed in 2023, and he actually got some playing time as a freshman.
Okay.
So
that's amazing. The K.
Yeah, he also this same kid. One day I'll tell you who it is. But this same kid on his official visit to Baylor, I heard that he made like $200 because he bet 2 different Baylor players that he would win fighting at a frat house party during his official visit, and he ended up knocking both those players out. Apparently, the dude could fight. He's from a small town school in Texas. So,
God,
yeah. But
this kid's incredible. We got to get this guy on the show for an interview.
Yeah, just have a bag on his head. No, but yeah. So another kid. Speaking of Baylor, the other 2024 kid we're watching, the last of the 3 is Alex Foster, 3-star defensive lineman from Mississippi, I believe Greenville, Mississippi, if I'm not mistaken. 6'5", has something like a +8 or +9 wingspan. Kind of a little bit of a Tavondre Sweat starter kit. He's only about 250, 255, 260, somewhere in there. So he's a really long frame that, probably if they wanted to, 100 pounds could be put on. Now, putting 100 pounds on a frame, you got to do it the right way. You can't, put on a ton at once, kind of like I feel like with what happened with Jordan Whittington and so much of his injuries. I feel like a lot of it can be attributed to him getting to Texas, and it felt like they put 30 pounds on him in like 2 months, and then expected him to move the same. So Alex Foster, he's very much an upside prospect, a traitsy, toolsy prospect, something you can work with. And, I think if they get McKinley, that would kind of fill in his spot. So I think he needs to kind of be smart about how he plays these next few weeks. If flipping to Texas is what he wants to do, because, again, he is committed to Baylor. So it's going to be interesting with his situation. It's obviously very fluent. Yeah, he does have some big hands as well. It's going to be a really fluent situation with the defensive linemen. I believe
could Texas get both of those? Sorry to cut you off, Jordan, but could they get McKinley and Foster, or is it kind of one or the other, you think?
To be honest, I haven't asked that question, but from what I know, I think it is, more one or the other. In all fairness to Alex Foster, McKinley is a much better prospect. So, if you have both those guys wanting to come in, you only have room for one, you're going to take McKinley's. So, I think that could be part of it. I think if Texas really felt like they just wanted to get it done, then they would have figured out a way to make Foster sign early, because they had him come in on an official visit 2 weeks before signing day. So Texas in that situation, I feel like in the past with the staff, whenever they want someone to shut it down, they have them shut it down. So I think it's more the kind of keeping him happy. Maybe I know arm's length isn't the right analogy, but keeping him warm so that maybe they miss out on McKinley 100%. They can pivot to him and have that option. But yeah, I'd say Dominic McKinley, Terry Bussey, and Alex Foster, the three 2024 guys we're watching.
There you go. I feel silly asking this question after you just told us the three guys we need to watch, but I know when Ryan Williams decided not to sign with Alabama during signing day one, there were probably 20 fan bases who were like, "Oh, does that mean our school has a chance? Is Texas any reason to even talk about that guy over the next few weeks?"
Yeah, I mean, to cut to the chase, Texas is. I'd be very, very surprised if he even ends up visiting Texas. But the reason it's getting talked about so much is because one, he's a very special prospect. We talked about DeCorian Moore for a lot of the show earlier. We all know how special DeCorian Moore is. Ryan Williams is the only receiver in America ranked ahead of DeCorian Moore whenever he was in the 2025 class. And it's really because as good as DeCorian Moore is, Ryan Williams is that special. And he kept his 5-star rating, and, he moved down probably about 10 or 12 spots whenever we put him in the 24 class. But again, he kept his 5-star ranking. And, that shows how special he is. A big part of why he's getting talked about, besides being such a great player, is because his quarterback and close friend, best friend, if you could say, is KJ Lacey, who is the Longhorns' 2025 quarterback commit. God damn. I'm just full of voice cracks today.
Oh, man.
But they're real tight. KJ's been to Texas. He was at Texas in the summer whenever he committed. Actually, I believe that was like June 5th. Came back for a game or two, but, he's been to Texas because he also was at Texas in the spring. He's been to Texas 3 or 4 times this year, and not once did he bring Ryan Williams. He's been to Auburn. He went to Auburn 3 times for 3 games this fall. He was also there in the last week or 2 weeks for their little right before signing day visit or whatever that schools do. Auburn is the most legit threat to flip KJ Lacey. I also think they're the most legit threat to flip Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams, he did an interview and said he wants to take these 5 official visits. Yeah, puberty is rough for everyone, brother. Don't trip. Okay. Yeah,
you knew that was coming.
I'll take it. But no, Ryan Williams, he did an interview and said before he signs in February, he wants to take 5 officials. Those 5 officials are Georgia, LSU, Auburn, Texas, and I think he said Alabama and maybe USC as well.
Okay.
I know Alabama's one of them, but again, I'd be surprised if he makes it to Texas, in all honesty. They've been recruiting him. I know they've been in contact with him at various points throughout the last year, but, again, he's never showed up to campus. He's been to Georgia before. He's been to LSU before. He's been to Auburn a lot. He's been to Alabama a lot. And he was at USC at some point this fall, I believe, as well. So, Texas is the only school of these schools that he hasn't visited. And, I know his quarterback is committed to Texas, but again, it's literally the only one he hasn't visited yet.
Yeah.
And also, KJ Lacey, he is committed to Texas. He hasn't given us any real reason to think he's flipping yet, but as much as he's been to Auburn, these are kind of the signs someone shows, when they eventually do flip. So it's something we're monitoring right now. I haven't talked to KJ directly about this topic, but I'd expect him to be in Austin in a few weeks for the junior day it's on January 20th, I believe. And so, hopefully we'll talk to him more about it then. But, that's kind of the latest on Ryan Williams and I guess KJ Lacey.